into a space where beauty meets authenticity and transformation is not just a possibility, but a promise. I'm absolutely thrilled to introduce you to someone truly special, Dr. Rukmini Vinaya Rednam, the compassionate force behind the countless remarkable transformations in the vibrant city of Houston, Texas. Picture this: every curve, every contour crafted with care and expertise, not just by a board-certified plastic surgeon, but your very own cheerleader for self-discovery and confidence. Get ready to embark on a journey where we explore the art of science of feeling your very best self. This isn't just a podcast. It's your cozy corner of empowerment and inspiration. So pull up a chair, pour yourself a cup of kindness, and let's dive into the Confidence Doc podcast with Dr. Rukmini Vinaya Rednam.
Welcome to the Confidence Doc podcast. I'm Dr. Rednam, board-certified plastic surgeon in the Houston, Texas area with My Houston Surgeons. And today, in keeping with our theme for the new year, we have on an amazing new guest who is all about confidence, so it makes total sense that she's on this podcast. Welcome to the show, Regina Bonds.
Thank you so much for having me. I am thrilled to even just receive an invite, so thank you for having me.
So, Regina, you are described as America's confidence coach, and I love it. Just reading about you, even the words all exude confidence. How did you find yourself in this pathway?
Yeah, I think for me, I know what it feels like not to be confident. And so to see how far I've come in my life and the things that I've experienced personally, when I finally did reach this level of confidence, I just was like, I've got to share it with the world that if I can do this, you can do it too. And so it started off from, as a child, I was told that I would really never be able to read or write past the third grade level. I had troubles in school with reading, with writing. I was always behind. I really just felt, I didn't feel like the other kids. I felt just not smart, not good enough. And I started to live my life through the lens of just not feeling good enough. And I never applied myself after being told that. I went through high school and just didn't, how it feels to just not give your best because of what the words that were spoken over you. And that's kind of how my story went. And it wasn't until my mother passed away and I had a child first right out of high school. And then my mother passed away that I really had to find my own strength because she was my everything. And so watching her leave me and having a son that I had to raise by myself, it really just made me step it up in life and go after what I really wanted. And that's what built my confidence, therefore would let me to teach the world how to build unstoppable confidence.
When you say like that, like that basically triggered this in you, right? To start there, like what really so you had that kind of fire lit in you. What were those first steps you took to really build your confidence?
Powerful question. I think one of the first things that I did to build my confidence, I had to be honest with where I was. And I had to take ownership. So oftentimes in life, we play the blame game. I can't do it because my teacher told me I couldn't read or write. I wasn't good enough. I can't do it because my mother's gone now. I can't do it because, I became a statistic. Now I'm a single mother right out of high school. And I had to stop blaming everyone else. And I had to look myself in the mirror and take ownership of my life. And so that was one of the first steps that I took. I decided that I was going to take life by the horns and I was going to give it all that I had. I had, that thing like, when you bounce a ball, it goes all the way to the ground. I'd already hit the ground. All I could do was bounce back. And so I took ownership of my life and I applied for college with a baby on the hip, studying 2:00 in the morning. I went ahead and got my bachelor's and my master's degree in psychology, life coaching, and women's counseling. And I never took back. I would say I never looked back. I would say from taking ownership, everything changed. Because when you realize that you're responsible for your life, you are responsible for your results, then you stop taking life, you stop playing with life, and you get real serious.
I love that answer. And, I always thought, but obviously I'm a plastic surgeon, and that same way of thinking stays true with what I do too, right? Like it's not enough to change external things in yourself. You have to internally make that decision to say, this is where I am and this is where I want to be. That's the only way you feel happy with any external changes you make, whether it's acquiring things, changing your body, changing your hair, whatever. If you don't feel confident about who you are and where you're going, none of it brings you happiness.
Absolutely. I haven't taken it as far as plastic surgery yet, but I would say I found when my mother passed away, one of my coping mechanisms was to shop. When I was feeling down, I would go buy things.
Mm-hmm.
The funny thing is, you buy the things and it makes you happy for a day. Then tomorrow you got to you got to face yourself all over again.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of, put towards what you just said. You cannot fake confidence. You cannot fake loving yourself. And I always say, when you learn to go within, you will never go without. And so it's not enough to change the outside if you haven't done the inner work.
Absolutely. So tell me a little bit about like how do people when people find you, what exactly is it that you offer them to help them on that pathway?
Really, I am a wheelhouse for women who are the underdogs. I love an underdog because I too was an underdog, and I had to start my life with basically nothing. And so I really draw women with huge hearts who have dreams and aspirations, but they still are living in this underdog mentality, as if they can never get beyond their past or their
Mm-hmm.
stories. And so I help a lot of women reclaim their confidence. I help a lot of dreamers start businesses and helping them gain the confidence to use their voice. I help public speakers learn how to speak and take authority with their audiences. I help leaders really establish their leadership roles and really rid themselves of imposter syndrome. I do a wide gamut of things, but the whole gist of my job is to make sure that I make women feel unstoppable.
That's amazing. And we love hearing that type of thing around here. Is that at the end of the day, sometimes you do need a little bit of help, and that's in no way makes you less, right? In fact, I really respect someone saying, I don't have this yet, and I'm going to reach out for help so I can get there.
That's I would say that's step 2. After you take ownership, step 2 is to get the help that you need. Sometimes we think we can do it all on our own, but the reality is you can go further with accountability. You can go further with the right community. You can go further when you have a mentor or a coach that's willing to guide you and lead you to your best self.
What are some challenges that you feel that you see with some of your clients or just in general with women for why they don't quite get to that step where they're like, yes, I want to try to achieve this?
Uh, the number one thing that I find in women that I have coached is they are still looking for outside validation. They're looking for approval. They need a permission slip, and that goes back to that's generational, that's systemic, that's society had the society norms for women for years. It was not until recently we were able to even get our own credit card, and
I know. It's crazy. That was not that long ago.
it's not that long ago. And so we still find ourselves crying out for someone to give us permission to go after what we want. And so I oftentimes have to break barriers and limiting beliefs in women who feel like they need to be liked, they need to be understood, and they need to be given permission in order to go after what they want. We have to break that first before we can go any deeper.
Well, I can tell you, right, as a woman in surgery, we have a lot of challenges sometimes really being heard because we are a minority in surgery and the expectations put on us are very different sometimes. And the stereotype female surgeons get is that we're bitches, right? Like if we want to get something done, we're being versus if it's a man who's a surgeon doing that, well, he's assertive, he's in control of the situation. And I would imagine that's very common in a lot of different types of careers. How do you talk to someone to navigate that and be like you can be assertive without necessarily coming off that way, or do you just not care what people say?
Well, I think the easy answer is to not care what people say. But the reality is, I mean, the number one human need is to feel like they belong. And so it's easy to say, I don't care what people say. But the reality is, you do care. I see this all the time. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's what they used to say when I was a kid on the playground. That's the biggest lie that's ever told. It does hurt when someone says something that cuts across us. And in your situation, and so many other women who feel like if I'm being assertive, if I am being bold, I'm looked at as, this mean person. But if a man that he's doing his job,
He's
yeah,
dominating.
yeah,
Yeah.
dominating. And one of the things that I always tell women when they find themselves in this predicament, they've got to learn themselves. You got to get really good at studying the subject called you. Because when it's almost like me saying, going telling someone to go cut on a light. Well, they're going to go cut on a light because they know how to cut on a light. And they're not going to think, well, I'm a bad person for knowing how to cut on the light. It's because they've been doing it for so long. Well, when you study you and you know that you have a pure heart, you have pure intentions, that you wouldn't cross anyone wrongly, in your life, that you come from a pure place. When someone says something like that to you, you can look at them and say, that's a lie. I'm the purest of purists. I know who I am. I love all people. I serve to the best of my ability. I do my job. You can defend yourself when you know yourself. But when you let other people define you, when you don't study you, that's when those negative thoughts begin to creep in and tell you who you are instead of you taking authority and saying, this is who I am. I'm really good at studying me.
I think that a lot of times too, from a young age, we're kind of told like if someone says something, just like keep it to yourself, don't worry about it. But I do like that, and I think as I've gotten older, that's been one of my favorite parts about getting older. Is I do just want to be like, you know what? I'm just going to say what's on my mind. And if I think that if you really said that straight to somebody and you were just like, you know what? That's not true. That's not the case at all. You're projecting whatever you feel. I mean, I think you would really they just look at you and be like, hang their head down and walk away.
Absolutely. We as women, we have to learn how to stand up for ourselves, and it doesn't have to come from a place of bitterness or being mean, but we do reserve the right to own our greatness and to take up for ourselves when the circumstances call for it.
Yes, absolutely. So tell me a little bit more about, like you were kind of saying, okay, step one, step two. Do you have like a certain number of steps that you kind of take people through? Or is it really kind of different for every person?
Well, I find that, I have a method, for my I have a confidence formula. Of course, every situation is different. So I apply it differently to every individual that I coach and I serve. But an overview of my confidence formula is I always say there's 3 steps to confidence. Number one, you got to have the clarity to know what you want. I say all the time that what cannot be explained will never be obtained. So you can say all day long, I want to feel good about myself. I want to lose weight. I want to be able to use my voice. I want to, go after my dreams. But if you can't explain it thoroughly, if you can't write the vision and make it plain, then you're going to find yourself doing a cycle every year of saying, I want, instead of becoming it. And so step one is you got to get clarity. Number two, after you get clarity, you got to have courage. Before you can get to confidence, you got to have some courage, because the reality is confidence it's building. You got repetition to really get that confidence. It's a process. But you don't need a process for courage. Sometimes you just got to show up afraid. Do it when you're afraid. You got to do it when you're shaking in your boots. You just got to show up. And so I say, on your way to confidence, you're going to have to make some bold moves, have some courage in your blood. And so step two is courage, and step three is commitment. And you really got to marry this journey. You can't say you want it and give up on day three. But when obstacles come, you got to look at them as opportunities, and you got to say, no, this is my work. This is my journey. And I'm willing to do the work to get the results. So if you get clarity, courage, and commitment, you will fall right into the loving arms of confidence.
I love that. And I mean, it's not easy, but most things that are really worth having aren't.
Right. And you take care of things that you've worked hard to build. And that's the most powerful part. You don't let anyone disrespect you if you know you worked hard to build your confidence. You don't let anybody cross your boundaries worked hard to build your self-esteem. You when you have standards and people respect you, people honor you. And so it's worth doing the work so that you can get the results that you want.
Yes. So this is the time of year that a lot of people, right? New Year's resolutions, everybody's all about like, and I think that that is a point that you make is like, you can't just have this vague thing. You have to be able to visualize what it is that you want. Otherwise, you're never really going to achieve it. So how do you like to talk to people about like how they approach? Because everybody does like to have this fresh start. Like, so what would your recommendation be on how to really approach making the most of your year?
My number one tip, and I live by this, you got to be intentional. It's not enough to have goals. It's not enough to make a vision board. It's not enough to write a list, but you have to be intentional with everything. And, I think for me personally, I had to become delusional. I had to act something that I wasn't at the time to become it. So I created what I call an alter ego, you know, back in the day when I wasn't as confident as I am now, because I was still living in the mindset of I'm not smart enough, I'm not good enough. I had to borrow an alter ego. And I used to act as if, I love the movie Enough. Have you ever seen that movie with Jennifer Lopez?
Yes, yes. It's a good movie.
And she's in this movie and it's like she's timid, she thought she was marrying the love of her life and it was amazing. They had a beautiful daughter, the white picket fence. I mean, she really come up. She was working in, a diner and then met this amazing man, had a beautiful life and daughter. She finds out that he's cheating. The story just goes crazy. She had to find the courage to fight back. Right? And so in my times where I had to become this new version of myself, this Regina 2.0, I would borrow that J-Lo mentality from that movie and I would put my boxing gloves on. And I say, when life threw me some curveballs, I was ready to fight back. I had to borrow, that personality that says, I'm going to fight this thing and I'm really going to become what I want to become, but it's not going to come without a fight. And so for me, I put myself in that movie. I said, okay, this thing. I'm going to become it for someone else. It may be, whoever you look up to, whoever you aspire to be. Look at their characteristics. How did they get to where they got? Probably they were resilient. Probably they were turned down a million and one times, but they kept going. So really sometimes borrow someone else's belief for you to really step into your own level of confidence. And as you do that, you will begin to find your own strength in doing so. And I also tell my clients is to start looking in the mirror. Start looking in the mirror at yourself and just saying, three practices that I do. It's called mirror work for me. And I just say, look in the mirror and tell yourself one thing you love about yourself, three things you love about yourself, three things you celebrate yourself for, and three things you forgive yourself for. If you just do that 3 days a week, you're going to have one of the best years ever. So if you can be intentional and incorporate a little bit of that mirror work homework that I just gave you, you're going to be night and day from 2024 to 2025.
That's great. And I mean, it's honest, right? Like if you really sit there and think about that, you're like, that means you're really putting in the work to which we don't think about. You might just feel a certain way, but when you actually have to put it down as these are three exact things, then you're making yourself aware of those things.
Absolutely. And women begin to discover their power when they are constantly reminding themselves of their greatness. And one of the things that I've learned is that you can't wait for someone else to tell you you're great. You got to remind yourself every day you step your foot out of that bed that I'm great and I'm worthy and I deserve to live the life that I want. And me and you, we can attest to that. We would not be
Hmm.
where we are today, and this is for everyone who's listening to this podcast. I'm sure me and you can attest to we would not be where we are today had it not been for us going the extra mile, doing what
Hmm.
others aren't willing to do to get the results tomorrow that others don't have.
And it's true. Like it's the cool part about confidence is from the external, it looks easy. Like, it looks easy. Like, I've had people even say to me, "It looks easy, all these things you do." I'm like, "I guess I'm doing a good job, but it's not easy at all, but it's because I want it. I know what I want." And outside of our moms, like, most people don't have somebody who's just telling you you're awesome all the time. And so that it has to really, over time, be you that's like, "You know what? I'm worthy of this, and I wanna go out and get it."
Absolutely. One of my favorite affirmations, and my clients love this affirmation. I always say, I know what I want, and what I want wants me. That's one of the things that I say all the time, because so oftentimes we as women, we self sabotage ourselves so much. We say we want something and then we don't feel worthy of it. So we find a way to sabotage our way out of it. And so I just want women to know to, to take back their power and to really believe in themselves on another level, because that's what it's going to take. That's the real work in you getting to this next level of being your best self.
I just love it. I do. What are some things that you are excited for with this coming year?
This coming year, I'm really looking forward to more reaching more people. I feel as though I've done a great job at having intimate conversations and having an intimate clientele, but I'm really looking forward to main stage even more. I've done a lot of TV opportunities, of course, and a lot of things like that, but I'm looking forward to getting on the stage more in 2025, because I believe more women need how I talk about confidence. There's a lot of people out here that are talking about it, but I feel like I have a different way of bringing it about, that women understand on a deep level, because I've been where they are. And so I'm looking forward to hitting the main stage, maybe going on tour, meeting women in different cities. And so I'm just excited to expand my reach and to get more women living in the realm of unstoppable confidence.
Well, I can tell you your confidence is infectious. Like I feel your excitement in that. And I really do. One of my favorite things about being a woman is meeting other strong women, because it just makes me want to go home and be like, what am I doing? I got to do something new. I'm excited. It gets me excited. So I love that for you.
I love that. And, I feel the same way. I love to meet beautiful, strong, powerful women. And I also like to hear women who are strong and powerful share their vulnerabilities. For me, last year, I had to really take a break. Um, with I really grieved a season of busyness because I had some family things going on, and so I had to focus on my family. And I think us in the working field, when we're chasing our dreams, especially when you have a family, we don't talk about that as women. How sometimes we have to sacrifice some things for a season to really honor and take care of things that are near and dear to us, things that are sacred. And so I'm looking forward to hearing women have more vulnerable conversations, so that women know that they are not alone, and stop judging things from the outward appearance. I know my Instagram looks good. I know videos are cute. I know this podcast is cute. But real women go through real things. And the more we come together and discuss those things, we will be made stronger together when we start getting vulnerable and sharing our stories together.
Absolutely, and it will connect better, right? Like I have two kids as well, and it's not always easy. Some days I'm really awesome at my work, some days I'm really awesome at being their mom, and some days I'm not good at either. And like that's normal. Even Oprah's got bad days, right? Like I mean, everybody's got their stuff, and the more that we're open and vulnerable, because I don't think that men are as open and vulnerable about things, but I think women are much more willing to do that. And I think that that's not like that's something that we can use as an advantage and to help lift each other up, you know?
Absolutely. I have seen it time and time again. Once I get in the audience, people are quiet, they're not talking, no one's sharing, no one's networking. But as soon as I get the room vulnerable, everybody wants to talk. Everybody wants to share their story. And so I'm really interested this year in having real conversations and getting women free and confident in 2025.
Well, I certainly hope to see your name out there. I think you're doing wonderful work. And I love that your main purpose is lifting other women up. And I mean, what more beautiful thing can you do?
Absolutely. It's just my dream. I always say my dream is to see other women's dreams come true.
Well, it has been wonderful having you on the podcast. If anybody of our listeners wants to find you, what is the best way for them to reach you?
The best way to reach me, you could find me on social media, Regina K. Bonds. I'm sure I'll be in the show notes. You can also go to my website, reginabonds.com, and find out all the details about me there.
Awesome. Well, if any of you have been thinking about it, this is the time to stop thinking about it and do something. Just like anything else, we all need a little help sometimes. And when you've got somebody this lovely that wants to help you, why wouldn't you take that opportunity?
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for being on here. And thank you all for joining us on this episode of the podcast. Thank you all for joining us on this episode of the Confidence Stock Podcast. made it through till the end.
As we wrap up another episode of The Confidence Doc, I want to extend our heartfelt thank you for being a part of our community. If today's conversation resonated with you, remember that Dr. Rednam and her team are here to support you on your journey to self-confidence and beauty. Your story is unique, and it's our privilege to help you create the masterpiece that is your life. If you'd like to book a consultation with Dr. Rednam, you can visit her webpage at drrukminirednam.com. Fill out a contact form, and one of her coordinators will get with you accordingly.